I looked for a microscope. That is something I was sniffing around for all week, and then I found that Vonda brought me the second best thing is a magnifying glass that doesn't actually look like a magnifying glass. Because it should be a circle, right? But thank you for bringing a prop. And that's something I kind of wanted to introduce this summer series, was like fun little props along the way. But we use this to see smaller words, smaller things, something along those lines. And now they got built-in lights, and such. But when we look at the world through this might be clear, but when I hold it up and I try to view the world, it is incredibly blurry. I can't see anything out here. I can see my finger, but then as it goes out further, I can't see anything. Do we forget to zoom out? I do. I do forget to zoom out. And when we're looking at the summer series, we've been talking about a lot of things. We got like 4 weeks left, I think, after this week, or maybe it's something like that. We've been looking at, the destination doesn't change. You can't find rest just in a destination. We think we do, and I'm not saying you might find a little bit of physical rest in that moment in time where you're kind of zoomed in, at the beach or on the golf course or whatever it might be. That moment might be kind of restful. That's good. It's not bad by any means. But oftentimes, guess what? When we put our head down at night, that mind starts to go again. Doesn't matter where you are, there you are. Wherever you go, yes, you are still there. We talked about baggage along with some other things, but just burnout and the heat and what individual kind of life crises look like. But oftentimes we forget to zoom out and see, God is still God. And I think I forget that at times, not when it comes to salvation or anything like that, but I forget that, as we're going to learn today, He created a universe. He also created me. He created you. What happens when I zoom out? Man, my perspective changes, doesn't it? Doesn't mean that right now what you're walking through isn't important or it should be neglected or that it doesn't need attention, but who goes into fix-it mode? I know I do. I go, okay, this is what's going on. I may have caused the thing, and how do I fix it? How do I get it resolved? Again, forget to zoom out. Have you ever found yourself where you're like, I think maybe God just, this might sting a little bit, just like God doesn't care about a thing going on in your life. It's like, God's interested in this, but He's not interested in this right here, right now. Well, the same God, as we'll learn today, that created the universe, all the stars, all the planets, all of it is the exact same God that created you and wants a relationship with you, that cares about you individually and where you're at. And He desires a relationship with you so much so that He would send His only Son to die on a cross. That's how drastic our Creator and our author of life is. So, when's the last time you looked up? Some of us live out in the country. We're blessed to live kind of where we're at, out where we can actually see stars. Now, I know the lights of the world are, encroaching and showing up. But what does it look like to look up? And if I'm focused right here, and this is all I can see, what happens if I put this down and I look up? Literally look at the stars. We'll see what David does here in a little bit after we dive into Job a little bit. But we'll see. He looked at the stars and he asked this question. He's like, who is man? What am I compared to all of this? Jesus came to die for mankind, for the humans, for the creation that is created in His image. He didn't say, I came to die for the rocks and the stars, but we'll see that there's a rejoicing that when creation happened, angels actually sang for joy. There was a chorus, I imagine, of just creation had an audience. That gives me goosebumps to think about, that's how big God is. He had an audience. He goes, check this out. Watch this. And they rejoiced. They found joy in Him. So we can zoom in. What do we zoom in on? Check these out. I'm sure none of y'all can relate to these. We zoom in on our bills. I mean, we do. You know, it's like either way, you're still looking at the electric bill in the middle of the summer in Central Texas. You go, why is that so high? Well, because the temperature outside is high, so it's easy to say why it's high. But we look at it. We take a look at it. How about relational frictions? Man, this one, by the way, is lifelong. Relationships more often not have friction in them. It could be a good friction. It could be a struggle friction. If we all saw them as growth opportunities, you know, maybe our perspective would be a little bit more Christ-like instead of, you know, this is a problem for me and I don't need to be involved. Maybe there's a growth opportunity there. How about the conversation that you can't stop replaying in your head? Man, I wish I would have said something different. I know my wife and I had this week. You know, man, if I would have approached that in a different way, if I would have stepped into the gap and protected and built up and encouraged, the whole day would have been different. Really. It's like relational friction exists. The conversations, we replay them. The health news you didn't want to hear. Some of us are on the other side of that. Some of us are stepping into it. Some of us have been given news that's like, hey, this is just the way it is. How will we zoom out and see what the Lord is doing right now in the big picture? But I know you hold a magnifying close enough, even to your own face, even to the problem, that is all you can see. It's really all we can see because I'm hyper-focused there. And I'm guilty of it. You know, I can just analyze something way too much. And if you look at our posture, that thing becomes so enormous. It's kind of like this, you know, the number 38 is just a normal size 38. But boys, I get this. It's just all I see. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And sometimes it's relationships. It's like, my life is a struggle right now because of this one relationship. And if I came back to the most important relationship and said, all right, Lord, what's this look like? Where am I at right now? Yeah, salvation's secure, but I'm talking about my relationship with you, Lord. Like, are we straight? Are we good? Do I have something unconfessed? What's going on here? Let me work on this one, and then we can start working on these. Just a Jerryism practice thing. Everything looks big through a magnifying glass. It really does. But we're going to put that down here. I'm just going to get it out of my life for the rest of this talk because I'm just going to keep picking it up. It's like, ooh, look, magnifying glass. Let's make the problems bigger. So I can shrink God down. I admit this. And, you know, I can shrink God down to the size of my current problem. I mean, I think we all can. It's like, well, let's just focus right here and that is it. But we shrink God down. And I think that's part of our tiny little human minds because we really can't grasp the vastness of who God is. And, you know, we know about this relationship with Jesus. Some of us have placed our faith and trust in him alone. If you haven't, please talk to myself or an elder. Come talk to me if you have questions. But it doesn't change the fact that we still walk through struggles. God can feel small. And I think that's just something that we've got to get away from because you got to remember how big he is. You know, how about this? If the problem is manageable, God feels accessible. But God's size never changed, right? He doesn't do this. He doesn't respond to us with like, I can't believe you did that, right? We say that. Probably too often around here. I do anyway. What'd you do, Jerry? I can't believe you did that. He's not caught off guard by any of that. And that's what today's about. That God is still God and God is vast and he is big, but he's incredibly relational. And he's the only one that can do that because we do get hyper-focused on a small thing, even though it feels like a big thing. And he's like, man, I just want you to zoom out. So if you've got a Bible with you today, you can open up to Job chapter 38, and that's where we're going to be. Now, let me... I'll read it to you, but then I want to set the stage for Job. Lots of theology in Job. Job, you know, many believe it is the oldest book in the Bible. Where it fits into this, well, that's a great theological discussion that we don't have time for this morning. But let me read the first couple verses 1 through 3 for you guys. It says, Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is it that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. Now, let me set the stage here for a little bit with Job. Now, in the beginning of Job, there's this dialogue between Yahweh, God, and the adversary or the accuser, that is Satan himself. And think about not a heavenly conversation, but like where we're talking about salvation, but a conversation that's taking place in the heavenly realms. And basically God's saying, this is a good dude down here. Job's a good guy. And Job had a lot. He had a lot by worldly standards compared to now, who knows what it would be. But he had a lot. Kind of had everything. But God saw him as a man of good character, these things. And Satan's basically saying, so here's the deal. The only reason he has these things is because he's kind of taking advantage of his standing with you, Lord. He's challenging. And so God kind of makes, and I don't want to say it's a bet, but it's kind of like this thing. God says, you can take these things and do these steps against Job, but you can't take his life. Because who's in charge of life? That's right. He goes, you could do. Now, we're going to see that Job's got some friends throughout the book of Job, and I would like to think Job needs better friends, because I would not recommend surrounding yourself. I mean, wise counsel's great, but these guys are kind of bummers. They're pretty dead set on the fact that Job has just sinned so much that these things have happened, even though they're his friends and they know him. They know him not to be a perfect guy, but he is a pretty good guy. Good character, good things. So there's this wager that's been between Yahweh and the accuser, and kind of the Satan saying the only reason he serves you is because of this protective hedge of wealth that you've given him, because you've given him all this, he serves you. You take all that away, he will reject you, is what the accuser's saying. Satan's telling him this. So again, who's smarter than who here? Well, we do find out. By the way, God is God and he created everything. So God gives him permission to do this. I don't know why, but I understand the end result, but it's a rough road that Job walks down. He ends up getting covered. He loses his family. He loses his livestock, and he didn't have 4 cows. He had lots of livestock, which was, currency. He had wealth. He had all of the things that the world pursues and says, you are of high stature because of these things. Now, was he blessed because of his character and how he was obedient and followed the Lord and kept the commands? Maybe, I don't know. But the reality is the accuser came after him. Now, I relate to Job, not because of all of the wealth by any means, but I think because he's superhuman in a sense of like he's just really human. Not capital S, but just like he's just really human. He's just a guy. He's just a guy, and all of Scripture, and it turns out to not be flattering at all. He loses everything. Again, the friends just get some different friends. They sit with him in the ashes. I guess that's okay. And they essentially tell him that suffering is always the result of sin. So the answer is, well, Job, you've just sinned somewhere a lot, and therefore you will have to deal with the repercussions of that sin. And God is mad and angry at you is the way they see it. Again, not incredibly encouraging. Now, what Job does, he actually rejects this theological framework that these men, his friends, have put in place. And because you know what they're looking through? They're looking through the magnifying glass. They're looking through the right here, right now, and maybe a little bit of maybe something happened in the past. They have no idea that this thing, this dialogue was taking place. And they had no idea what was to come, especially when it came to Job's responses. So where we're picking up in Job is like, and then God speaks. Job spent 37 chapters kind of complaining. I don't blame him. He's covered in sores. He's lost everything. He hasn't lost this, though, his faith in who God is. That is incredibly important. He's hanging on to this. The most important thing is his faith in God. He's hanging on to that, even though with his awesome friends. Now, if we think about the weight of what is about to happen, 37 chapters of Job petitioning, kind of, and then God speaks. And what does he say? So God doesn't apologize. Let me read it to you all again. It says this: Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is it that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you make it known to me. I feel like God's like, all right, let's see what you got. Now, when he says put your armor on, we put armor on, especially Ephesians, like, hey, you need to put these things on because you're going to go to battle each and every day when you get out of bed. Now, that is true. We got to suit up in armor. If you know me, I feel like I run out of the house in just my pajamas and a helmet on at times, and that's bad news. Okay, different armor here. God is he's not mocking him. He said, I want you to put your armor on because you're about to sit down with the creator of the universe and have dialogue. And if you're not suited up, you can't handle this. So you better have your ducks in a row. And it's like, and Job knows, you know what Job knows? He can't win this discussion. He can ask all the questions in the world. And you know what? If you fast forward, what did Jesus do a lot of? Asking questions. People would go and challenge him, right? And you know what he did? Asking questions. That's funny, isn't it? We're going to talk about that C word that I don't like a little bit. Coincidence. Anytime man has questions, God has questions for man. I mean, God makes statements for sure, but he comes back and he asks me questions all the time. I go, I don't like that one. You got another one? He goes, well, I got lots, but let's just focus on that one. And he never gets away from that question with me until I come to him and say, hey, all right, so here, let's work through this question. God doesn't apologize. And he also, you know what he doesn't explain? He just said, well, Satan and I, we were just bored and we decided to have a wager to see what would happen to you. That is not the God we have. But he doesn't explain the wager to Job. Probably because he couldn't comprehend it. I'd feel pretty bad. Like I'm just a betting chip. That does not explain a loving, caring God. And Job, it's kind of hard to relate to that until you start digging into it. The first thing, one of these questions, he goes, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? As we'll see. Like, Job, what were you doing? Jerry, what were you doing when I was creating the universe? Well, I was doing nothing. I wasn't even here to be the little F1 tornado bouncing around down here, causing problems, He's like, you weren't even here. You got to zoom out. I want you to zoom out and see how big I am versus how small this thing is for you right now. Now, God's not evading the question. Some would say, well, he's evading it because he doesn't really want to answer it. He's having a conversation with Job because he's trying to reframe the whole thing for him. He's trying to get his focus off the right this second and zoomed out onto who God is. What is God's character? Who is he? What does a relationship with him look like? It's a conversation. It is a dialogue. He's not brushing Job off. He's pulling the magnifying glass out of his hands and throwing it to the side. And he goes, your view is too small for the argument you're making. It's too small. Because you're focused on this. By the way, when can you answer my questions? Go put your armor on, right? Put your armor on, then we'll talk about it. But I want you to answer my questions first. Where were you? God opens by saying, Job has been darkening counsel by words without knowledge. Now let's look at that. That's not that Job's been lying, okay? This isn't a lying. He hasn't been wicked. He's been narrating a story. He doesn't have the vantage point to narrate. I do that. I decide my story. And what I've done is I've removed the authority of the author of life in my life. I said, you know what? I'm going to set you aside and I'm going to narrate and live my life and I'm going to do this because this is the way it is. And I've allowed him to be pushed out. And he says, well, you can go your way. But by the way, I'm God. I'm quicker and faster than you. And I already know where you're going to go. Instead, Lord, stay one step ahead of me. Maybe that's what Job was trying to get at. He's been trying to describe the whole tapestry of God's governance based on a single thread in Job's current pain. God basically says, you've been speaking with great confidence about a reality you've only seen one square inch of. Because you haven't seen it all. You're talking about right here and right now. Now, I know for me, something goes wrong and we immediately start writing that narrative. This is never going to get better. I'm going to keep doing this, meaning even though I don't want to, I keep doing it. Nothing I do matters. We treat this current field of vision that we've got as the complete picture, and it's actually not. Because this is what my life looks like right now doesn't determine what your life looks like tomorrow. Because it could look totally different. And you could flip that. Today could be a really great day, and tomorrow may not be so. So we zoom out and know that the Lord has a plan. I've spent a lot of my life, I think we all have, given God input. He hasn't needed any of it. I've given him my opinions. Hey, you know how that goes. God doesn't, he wants a relationship with me, but I'm like, Lord, if you did, Lord, if you did this better, Lord, forgive me for even saying that. He's like, whoa. What kind of counsel you've been seeking? Who's hanging around? Like, where's that coming from? Like, that's a dangerous turf to play on. Don't do it. He is God, I am not. So how do we apply this? You know, you could be in a season of pain. Maybe it's a difficult family dynamic, health crisis, financial wall you just can't see over. Maybe your mind starts this narration thing. This week, when the narrative starts, interrupt it with a question instead of a conclusion. I'm a conclusion guy, but let's do this instead. How about, great example, write it down. Try, Lord, I can only see this much. What am I missing? It's a small shift, right? But it pulls the magnifying glass back just enough to let a little bit of light, capital L in, right? And so that you can see maybe a little clearer, just a little bit clearer. We're going to look at verses 4 through 7 if you got your Bible there. Job 38, 4 through 7. He says, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Back to that question. Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? Or what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. More questions. Like he is throwing it at Job in a loving, caring way and asking questions, but he's using this building metaphor. It's a construction site of sorts. And it's like showing up and saying, well, what happened? He goes, well, where were you when we started building it? We've all probably been through a little bit of that. Well, I was here first and I've been working this whole time. Where were you? That's an arrogance, but God is coming from these loving questions like, man, this is a little window. Where were you in the beginning? He's saying, where were you when I drew up the blueprints? Who rolls out a blueprint of a new home and says, hey, check out this closet? No, don't look at this other stuff. Just look at the closet. Isn't that awesome? Nobody does that, right? You roll out the whole blueprint and you see all of it and you talk about it. And then your friends give you lots of input. We know how this goes, right? Well, why'd you do that? Well, that's not a bad idea. ... It's like, well, what do you think? And it's like, oh, here we go. But we roll out the blueprint because we want to see the whole picture. We don't want to just see a closet or how really cool a bathroom is. I mean, it might be a really cool bathroom, but still we want to see the big picture. So God's asking all these questions and the answer is, well, he did it, not Job. He goes, I did it. I've done all of this, and this is why it matters when you feel like your life is falling apart. The universe is not some random accident held together by luck and good intentions. It's just not. And it's also not held together by coincidence. Word. It's held together by the creator of the universe. Right there, the palm of his hand. Like, do you believe that? Do you grab that? Do you hold on to that? And that he's created this universe and you're part of it. I know for parents or grandparents, that universe can revolve around kids. If you've ever had kids or been around folks that had kids, it's like, how about this? Pets. Anybody have to plan a trip? And it's like, you got to well, what are we going to do with the pets? or the cattle and the farm and everything else, and all the planning revolves around that. And it's like, no, everything revolves around who God is. It doesn't revolve around me. It doesn't revolve around farm animals or dogs either, by the way, even though we make it to be. It revolves around God and who He is. The axis of the earth, all of these things, the stars, all of this stuff, the reason the atmosphere doesn't crash upon us is because of God, because of the creator of the universe. By the way, that has nothing to do with you. No matter what's going on in your life, and this might sting a little bit, no matter what's going on in my life, whatever is going on in your life, guess what? The sun's going to rise, more than likely. If it doesn't, the plan is now updated. Right? We now know where to go. And we're like, okay, well, if we're still here, we got to talk. But still, the thing is, God is still God. And the world doesn't revolve around me because the sun's going to rise. The sun's going to set. The stars are going to come out, hopefully, where you live. God's got every single thing in place for this creation to be successful. And you may be thinking, well, Jerry, I don't know, man. Politics and everything else going on right now. Man, I don't think everything's okay. I didn't say it was okay. What I'm saying is that the world functions when we zoom out the way He designed it to. When it comes to atmosphere, stars, sun, it's like, why is our planet just like in the right spot? Why is it in the right spot? Because our God is intelligent far more than we are. He knows what He was doing, and He still knows what He's doing in your life. He hasn't given up on you. Now, most of us know what it feels like when the foundation starts to crack, and then it feels like it is left below us, that diagnosis that may rewrite the future a little bit, or the relationship that's gone south, or it just feels like it's dissolved and the ground is not solid. God's answer to Job is a construction walkthrough. Where were you when I was doing this? He's creating all these things. You're part of it, but small. He loves you a lot, though. I'm small, but God is vast. You are small, but God is vast. And the greatest plan He's ever had for you happened on the cross. That sacrifice that Jesus took upon the cross, the resurrection, the hope, the joy, the passion that took place on that cross is where our faith just fire. And Holy Spirit shows up at Pentecost. It just lights up the believer and says, go. Go now and make disciples, all that good stuff. But this Job passage, he says, let me show you what I built and how I built it. The morning stars sang. Now we see a star, we don't think about singing. But again, I imagine this, my tiny little brain, this chorus just breaking out. This audience is watching God do His thing. So how do we apply something like this? When your life feels like it's falling apart and at the seams, it's just busting, look at what's still holding together. The sun, it rose on schedule this morning. It didn't pause. We go, hey, Jerry, when you get your life together, the sun will rise. The sun rose this morning on schedule. Guess what? I know seasons are a weird thing, but go somewhere else and experience a season. I know we have 2, hot and cold. And cold lasts for 2 weeks. But still, the reality is seasons still change. Sometimes relationships are like seasons. The tides answer the moon. Funny, man, that's beautiful to me. I'm an ocean guy. Not one of the 10,000 things that have to go right for this planet to sustain life went wrong. Does that make you feel small? Does that put things in perspective? Like all the things for life to be sustainable here went right. But my life is a mess right now, Lord. And I just don't know. He's like, right now. Right now it is. Put the magnifying glass and let's zoom out. You can flip over to Psalm. We'll throw it up. Psalm 8, verses 3 through 4, and we can look at it. He says here, this is David. I imagine David as a shepherd, younger in life when he's writing this, and he's laying in a field before you had street lights, and we don't have street lights. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you go to the city lights. We'll say that. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him? And the Son of Man that you care for him. So David's writing this, and David just being so poetic. He's just like, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, I imagine God just doing this, painting, orchestrating things into place that we can't even fathom. We're all stoked when we discover a new star, a new planet. Well, there's a planet out there. I'm like, I don't know, that didn't change my life at all. But you know what does? When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, Lord. Why does that change my life? Why does Scripture change my life? I'm speaking for me personally, instead of, well, we made it to we found another planet. I'm like, that's cool. I mean, of course. God created the Milky Way with his fingers. He didn't say, well, let's sit down at the table and let's draw it up and let's talk about it and let's get through it. No, man, he just painted it. Drew it with his fingers. I think about it like a kid in finger paints or something, just having fun. And just allowing that joy and these angelic beings just watching this happen. Man, that excites me for the life to come in eternity. To see face to face the one who did that. And to have a sit down with David, because I have questions. But still, all of them are answered in the presence of Jesus. I know that. But David's under this open sky, and he calls it the work of your fingers. It's not some great effort. It's not a homework assignment. It's actually not the Lord's masterpiece or project. I truly believe it's just him decorating something that we, who are created in his image, get to look at. But do we? Do we zoom out on that and say, man, I want to look at the stars? I know when we first moved out here years ago, 2019, I looked at the stars a lot. I find myself looking at them less. Why? So, last week I went out and looked at the stars. And you know what? There's something different when you look up. There really is something different. David hits this wall. He's walking through this poem and he's writing, and then he gets this, what is man that you are mindful of him? Like, what does it actually mean? Like, what is man? Like, why are you so, what is this, what am I to you, Lord, is kind of what I think he's saying. Like, who am I? Like, I'm nothing compared to everything you've created. Like, I'm a speck compared to the universe. I'm a speck on a tiny little planet compared to everything you've created. Well, there's the Hebrew words actually carry this. The word translated man here, it doesn't necessarily mean humanity in general. It means mortal. Like David knows his days are numbered. Like he knows he doesn't get out of here alive. He doesn't live forever. And he knows that God is eternal. He knows that man is frail and weak. And I know some of us are like, well, I am not frail and weak. Well, compared to the God who created the universe, yes, you are. Yeah. He is not frail and weak. David isn't asking, what is noble humanity? He didn't ask that. He's asking, what is this fragile, fading creature that exists? Man, that's perspective right there. Now you have this word that care, which means, or translated pakad. It's a pastoral term. It means to personally show up. So right here, what is man that you are mindful of him? And the Son of Man that, I want you to think, replace, show up for him. To care is to show up. Well, we know this shepherd is writing a poem. The good shepherd showed up for man and went to the cross. Man, perspective again. One man writing a poem a long time before Jesus walked the earth. And this guy is talking to Jesus through this poem. Beautiful stuff. David's actually saying, God, you hold 200 billion stars in one galaxy, I don't know, something like that. You personally show up for the person who is not going to make it on their own. You show up for me. He showed up for you. Did he have to? I don't know. I don't think so. Because he is the authority. No, he wanted to. Because he knew he was the only one that could solve it. God came to earth to solve the sin problem for man. It's the only one that does it. All the other ones want to go get to God and do this. God comes to man, to earth, to take the punishment on the way to the cross. A couple references. Isaiah 40:26. Lift up your eyes on high and see who has created these things, who brings out their hosts by number. He calls them all by name, by the greatness of his might and the strength of his power. Not one is missing. He names every star. We haven't named every star. I mean, some guy probably thinks he has, but has he seen them all? Nope. And he's numbered the hairs on, well, most of our heads, right? We know that. Yeah, that's a funny bald guy joke. It's fine, you know? Yeah, y'all gonna be laughing one day. I know. I share this with some folks. I know a couple of us in there, we're gonna have long flowing locks. And y'all gonna be like, man, your hair looks great. I'm like, I know. Someday. I don't know. It seems hair's overrated these days. But how about Matthew 10:30? Listen to this one. The same precision, the same attention, the same care applied to galaxies and to you. Man, can you imagine God working through your life like a painter? Yeah, he's a blueprint guy, I get it. But the beauty of your life, he's working through it like a painting. He's like, you don't see all the pieces yet. It's kind of that mosaic type term or whatever. It's all these pieces and put together, and you zoom in, you see one tiny little piece of glass that looks all broken and shattered, and you start to zoom out, and all of a sudden it goes, what? That looks beautiful. It's a whole lot easier to do in other people's lives, isn't it? Isn't it? It's like, man, let me zoom out on your life for you a little bit. Let me tell you how you're so blessed. Not a bad reminder. We need that in our lives, but we get real focused underneath that microscope. Psalm 19, verse 1 says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. God is a creator. He is not standing idly by when he works in the lives of man. He is working in your life. He is a creator. When you go out tonight, because everybody's going to be standing on their back porch, I know. Somebody's going to forget. I know. It'll be me. The sky isn't beautiful. I want you to when you see a sunset, what if we changed our thing from, man, that's a beautiful sunset. Remember, there's like never a sunset that's the same. There's never a sunrise that's the same. I mean, there's science behind that. Okay? What if we changed it from the word beautiful to go, what a testimony. What a testimony of who God is in creation. So how do we apply it? I got like a 4,000 word application point, but I'm going to keep it short. Embrace your smallness this week. The world doesn't revolve around you. Feel free to text me and let me know. Go outside tonight and look up. Let the scale of what you see shrink your self-importance. I know. It's like, but I am important. No, come on. Just roll with me for a little, 1 week. All right. Not your worth, not your self-importance. May you just look up and see the glory of God. Maybe those are different things. Your worth was established when the infinite God decided to care to step in, to have a relationship with you, to personally show up for something as fragile as you, because you are incredibly fragile. I know that stings us men at times. I am not fragile. Yes, I am. Ask my wife. She's like, oh, emotionally, yeah. You know, the man thing, we can have a bone pop out and it's duct tape. You know, we get a cold. It's like my world's falling apart, or whatever. But men, we internalize, believe it or not, ladies. I know. That's a whole nother sermon. But you are not, and here's one, I know for some of you folks, you are not responsible for holding the universe together. You think you are. Well, if I don't do this and this and this and this and this and this and this today, the world will actually stop moving. No, that is this thing. This self-importance thing. Like, well, I'm important, right? I'm not saying you're not important. You're very important to the Lord. And you're important to your friends and family and to me. But the reality is the world will keep going. With or without you. It's like, let's go, Jesus. Let's go. Your job is taken, by the way, if you think it is you and you're responsible for the universe. It's taken, and his name is Jesus. Jesus is responsible for the universe, not you. So how do we connect this to the gospel? When we zoom out and we see the wide-angle view of the cross, man, why would the architect of the universe concern himself with the details of one fragile life on one small planet? He wants a relationship with you. That's what it's about. It's about connecting with Job. He said, talk to me, Job. Answer my questions. Please read Job and see where Job ends. It's a whole lot different than his sketchy friend group. It's a whole lot different than losing everything. It ends in a really powerful way. The infinite God who stretched measuring lines across the foundations of the earth allowed himself to be contained and cramped in the womb and to walk and live a perfect life for us. He stepped into the measurement of a man, a human man, while being completely perfect, completely human, completely God. I mean, he was laid in a feeding trough as a baby. And as he grew, they hung him on a tree. I will never truly understand how much God loves me until I'm in the presence of Jesus. And my prayer is that I want you guys to have that relationship with Jesus. I want your family, I want your kids, your grandkids. I want us to be on fire for the Lord and the gospel. And I want lives, not just in this room to be changed, but I want lives generations down the line to be changed because somebody said, what's different about you? And you go, I don't know, man, I'm just a broken dude that loves a man named Jesus because I know he loves me. That's it.